Okay, looks like everyone's in here, so we'll get started. Hello and welcome. My name is Ryan Tappy, and I work with the ALS Association. Thank you for joining us for another installment of our Living with ALS webinar series. The title of today's webinar is Living Better at Home with ALS, Practical and Affordable Solutions. There are a few things we want you to know before we begin. First off, please know you are muted and are not on camera, so you can relax and enjoy the presentation. There will be time at the end of this webinar to answer questions. You should see a chat box feature on your screen as well as a Q&A feature. You can use either of these options to submit questions you may have. All messages submitted will only be viewable by the hosts and panelists. We will review and answer these questions with our speaker at the end of the webinar. We do have a very short survey we are asking that everyone complete after this webinar. The survey will appear in your browser once the webinar ends. This survey helps us know your thoughts on this presentation and topics you would like us to consider in the future. Lastly, this webinar is being recorded and it will be available on our website in the Care Services webinar page within about a week. For today's webinar, we will be exploring affordable options for making your home more accessible. We are delighted to be joined by the Manager of Equipment and Assistive Technology at the ALS Association, Michelle Frederick. A physical therapist by background, Michelle has 25 years of experience working in a variety of settings. She is also a certified assistive technology professional and is one of the ALS Association's assessors for the Virtual Home Modification and Safety Assessment Program. Michelle's passion is connecting people with the tools and information they need to continue to do things important to them, even as they experience symptoms related to their diagnosis. Thank you so much for joining us today, Michelle. I will hand it over to you, and I will return for the question and answer after the presentation.
Thank you, Ryan. Good morning, everyone, or I guess I should be saying afternoon for most of you. Today, I'm going to be covering several related topics, but as Ryan said, all related to practical and affordable solutions for living better in your home. I want you to know that I have got a lot of information. I will do my best to fit it all into our allotted time frame. And my information will be general, not tailored specifically to you. I want to provide more of a general awareness of some solutions that exist to solve common issues, which will hopefully inspire you to have conversations with your family and your care team. So living with ALS, goodness, there's so many questions and so many decisions to make all the time. I brought this slide in just to talk about some of the questions that you might have been thinking as you decided to join us for this webinar. I'm just going to kind of read those here. You know, do I need to remodel my home? Will I need to make some adaptations? Do I maybe need to move in order to be able to access my home? What kinds of things do I need to put in place now? And where will I find the kinds of things that I need? What will fit or work in my home setup? What kinds of things might I need in the future? And what's going to keep me safe as well as the people that are providing care? In this conversation today, I just want to share that living with ALS will, not maybe, will require some adaptations to your home environment at some point. There are many solutions that do not require a complex home remodel, and you have a team of professionals available to help you make informed decisions about what will work best for you. Some of the topics we will be hitting on today will be exploring affordable options for entering and exiting your home, for accessing your bathroom, and for transferring safely. We'll talk a little bit about some technology solutions for having control over your home environment and how you can get good advice personalized to your home and your needs. I broke this down into different general parts of a home or parts of a day. And so first, I would like to talk about one topic that comes up for many homes, and that is how will I get in and out of my home if my mobility changes? This slide has pictures of a couple of different options. Um, and most of them relate to the situation that the majority of us have of there are some stair steps involved in entering or exiting my home. In these pictures at the bottom in the center, this is an example of a portable ramp. These ramps are light enough for a person to carry or sometimes two people. They can fold up and fit in a vehicle generally. And they have some disadvantages. You can see that they do not offer a lot of support from the sides to help the driver or the pusher, remain centered on the ramp. Another option here shown here on the right is an example of a modular metal ramp. These ramps come in pre-made pieces and can be assembled quickly. And the vendors that work with these will design a set of modular pieces that, when assembled, will fit your home precisely. Not pictured here, there are also construction built ramps made out of wood, and guidelines can be found for building those types of ramps as well. Just the small note I will make here when you are just thinking about a ramp and thinking about your home, for every inch of height of steps to enter or exit your home, you can assume that a ramp would need to be about 12 inches in length. There is another type of picture I want to share here, and it is on the upper left-hand corner. It is showing an example of a device that has several names. I've heard them called a wheelchair lift, a garage elevator, a vertical platform lift. Any of those, if you were to Google those words, you would end up with the same type of thing. And what this is a simple elevator, an electric powered elevator that a person can roll into with a wheelchair or walk into with a walker, and it will raise you up a correct amount, and the door will open and you can exit on the other side at the other height. These are often designed for either indoor or outdoor applications. So this one is shown on an exterior porch, but sometimes they're a great solution in a garage. For the exterior installation, sometimes there needs to be some preparation. You can see that there is maybe a concrete pad poured that this is sitting on. But for a garage, there's usually not a lot of preparation needed. And special wiring is not usually needed either. It usually plugs into a standard outlet. Now, there's another thing on this picture that seems a little bit odd and out of place on the bottom left-hand corner, and that is a door hinge. You can see it's got a unique L-shaped design to it. It's called an offset hinge. I put it here because I didn't have a great other slide to add it to. But this can be useful for getting in and out of your home, but maybe also for doorways in your home. And what is special about this hinge is that typically when a door is open, some portion of the door takes up a little bit of the space of the door opening. And with this type of a hinge, the door, when it's open, sits completely outside of the doorway opening and sometimes can provide just a little bit more room when passing through that doorway. So I wanted to include it, and I didn't think it deserved its own slide. There it sits. So the next frequently challenging part of a home that I want to talk about, maybe for a bit here, is bathrooms. More people experience falls in their bathrooms than in any other part of their home. And you might ask yourself, why is this a problem? Lots of reasons. One, bathrooms are often small, and that means it's hard to fit a piece of equipment like a walker or a wheelchair in many bathrooms, but also hard to fit some other person that might provide assistance in there with you. Floors can be slippery because of the material or also because they are often wet from bathing. There are lots of hard or sharp corners and surfaces, so if a person does take a fall, you're more likely to experience an injury here. And there are just lots of up and down motions that need to happen with getting in and out of a tub or a shower or on or off a toilet. So there's a lot going on in a bathroom. This next slide is showing an example of a bathroom that is designed or been remodeled to be accessible. And there's a few features I want to point out in this space just to note. Um, First of all, the room has lots of space for turning around and moving about, or for another person or a piece of equipment. The space around the toilet is open. There is no threshold or step to enter or exit the shower. So a chair designed for getting wet could roll right from the main part of the room into the shower without having to go over a bump. You can see grab bars are installed both beside the toilet and inside the shower. There is in the shower a shower head that can be adjusted. The height can be adjusted or it can be completely removed from the bracket for showering. The shower is large enough to fit a rolling chair or a helper or a static, just a simple shower chair. And there is a curtain for entering and exiting the space rather than a glass door. Um, so those are all some features that you would find in a nice accessible bathroom, but let's be real here. Bathroom remodels are incredibly expensive and it is not in the budget for everyone. So we might be able to adopt some of these ideas, but we'll talk about what you can do if that's not an option. I'm going to, in the next several slides, um, kind of break down some solutions that are tied to different types of challenges. And the first place we're going to talk about is the toilet. So I have got just a number of photos here, and I apologize. These are a little bit tricky to see because there's so much white on white, which is often the case in a bathroom in real life as well. But let's start on the upper left corner. This is one example of a toilet safety frame. It can be a freestanding device like this one shown, or can be attached to the toilet itself at the same place where the toilet seat attaches to the toilet. It is a great way to add something to hang on to when standing up and sitting down if adding a grab bar is not a practical solution in your space. Another thing that can be helpful is to make a toilet taller. And there are several choices in this slide of things that can make a toilet taller. The first one on the bottom left is an example of an elevated toilet seat or a toilet seat riser. The one that is shown has an important feature that I want to point out. At the back of it, it is bolted to the toilet at the point where the toilet seat bolts to the toilet. There are devices on the market that are essentially a ring that clamps to the bowl, and those are a little less stable because a toilet bowl is slippery for good reasons, and so it's difficult to just attach something in a sturdy way by clamping it to the bowl. Right next to that, the item in blue is an example of a freestanding, another type of toilet seat riser. It's not physically attached to the toilet, but it's got 4 feet on the ground. The height can be adjusted, and this one happens to integrate some handles for pushing up or for hanging onto when sitting back down. So that's another way to bring your toilet seat up. And I want to show you one other one, the one top center. This one's a little unusual, and hopefully you can see it in the photo. This is a specialized item that installs at the base of the toilet to raise it up. It's called a toilevator. And so you could keep your original toilet, but raise the height of the toilet about 3.5 inches. Why would you want to do that from the bottom rather than one of these add from the top choices at the bottom? Well, the next item on my list on the top right is a bidet. Bidets are a fantastic tool. It is a great way to be able to maintain your hygiene, especially if you're having some difficulty with weakness in your hands. And it can be a little bit tricky to add something to the top of the toilet and then add another thing to the top of the toilet. So a toilet can be a great way to raise a toilet and leave the top free for another application like a bidet. There's lots and lots of bidets out there on the market. And if I was shopping for a bidet, there's some features I would want to consider. I think I would like warm water, please. They often have also a warm air dry, a little bit like a hair dryer. And not shown in this picture is a feature that many offer, which is a detached remote control. And that can be really useful if you have one hand that functions better than the other, then you can use your stronger hand to operate the bidet. But if neither hand is working very well for you, a caregiver could press the buttons for you, but still allow you a little bit of personal space for that personal hygiene task. Something I didn't mention because these are all, tools, is that toilets also come in a variety of heights. And so sometimes the solution for making a toilet taller can be purchasing a taller toilet from a home improvement store. Finally, in the bottom right-hand corner is a whole different solution. This is actually a shower chair, but it is a dual purpose item. It is also functions as a rolling or a rollover commode. You can see perhaps that there is an opening in the seat here that can be aligned with the toilet, and that would let a person um, do the transfer into this seat. It wouldn't have to happen in the bathroom. You could do that outside of the bathroom and be able to just roll in over the toilet, continue to use a toilet rather than needing to use a bedside commode to in the bathroom. So let's go to the next location. And we're going to talk a little bit here about baths and showers. People have all kinds of designs of bathrooms and showers and baths in particular. And so I'm just kind of showing a few examples of some items that can be useful because getting in and out of that shower or tub can be a trick. On the upper left, or on the left-hand side, we've got just a picture of a very simple chair. It's got some handles for arm support or for assistance with transfers and some back support. These work really well in a shower. They don't work quite as well in a bathtub because you still need to get yourself over the edge of the tub before you have a seat. But this can be a great way to save your energy or if you are not feeling, very steady on your feet in the shower. I'm jumping around in the slide, and the bottom right-hand corner is an option that does work well for a bathtub. This is a tub transfer bench, and you can see in this photo that two of its 4 feet are outside of the tub, and two of its 4 feet are inside the tub. This particular model shown is called a sliding tub transfer bench. And what that means is that the seat under this lady, it can slide or glide along the rails so that she could start out outside the tub, have a seat, and then, with assistance or on her own, remain seated, and just the whole seat along with her will slide until she is centered in the tub. And from there, you can have your shower. There's another similar type of bench that is not shown here that does not have the gliding feature, and it is just more of a simple bench. But you would need to scoot yourself over to get in or out of the tub. But both let you be seated while you're getting in and out and not have to stand and balance on one foot while you're stepping over with the other. Something that is not shown in this slide, but is super valuable is grab bars. And we did look at some of those installed in that example of a modified bathroom earlier. But I do have a picture about something different here. Um, I make note, I showed installed grab bars that are bolted into the wall into a stud. You've all seen by now the suction cup grab bars that are out there, in stores. I'm not a big fan of those. They can lose their suction, and you cannot always predict when that's going to happen. You really want to be able to rely on that bar all the time. Rather than most of the time. So I am not a fan of the suction cup grab bar. But in this, kind of picture in the middle on the left at the bottom, what is this? Well, you can see in this shower, it has glass doors. And, how are you going to put a grab bar in there if I don't like the suction cup option? What else? You can't bolt something to a glass door. This item is called a tension mounted transfer pole. And it is held in place, as the name says, with tension. It's a lot like a shower curtain. Sounds kind of crazy, like it wouldn't be sturdy, but these things are incredibly sturdy. They don't require any drilling or bolting into the ceiling or floor, but they are a way when the ceiling is not too tall for the application to add a handhold just about wherever would work well for you. So that is another option if a grab bar is not a good solution. And then finally, on the upper right-hand corner, we see that rolling shower chair that we saw in the previous slide. In the previous slide, it was being used as a commode, and here it is shown in a shower, same chair. But you can see a feature that we couldn't see in the previous slide, and this particular item, in addition to having the commode opening, also allows the chair to be tilted back. And so if someone is having a tough time holding their head up, or their trunk up for very long, the chair can be reclined and the person can be in a comfortable reclined position for showering or, potentially for using the toilet as well. Got one more slide about accessing a bath or a shower. And this is all one thing, but lots of photos. This is called a tub transfer system. So in this system, there are a couple of pieces. This shower chair that is shown kind of where I'm circling on the bottom left. It is shown, rolled over a toilet as a commode. And then on the top left, you can see another piece is sitting inside of a bathtub. What happens with these two pieces is that there is also a third piece that's a little difficult to see in these that acts as a bridge between the two. And so this chair can roll freely, but then it can roll up next to the tub. The bridge can be clicked into place, and then the seat can slide along the rails all the way into the shower. The bridge could be removed and the shower curtain pulled, so no water on the floor then. But that is yet another way to have quite a bit of support to be able to even recline and to get in and out of the shower. But if it's not a shower, if it's a shower tub combo, so these tub transfer systems can sure solve quite a few challenges in the bathroom, whether it's getting to the toilet or getting in and out of the shower or tub. This is shown over a tub, but it also works great for those walk-in showers that have a little lip on the edge that a person would need to step over. I'm going to show you some other kind of miscellaneous bathroom adjacent tools here next. On the bottom left, I have a couple of things that are actually shower specific. The bottom left corner, that is just a small threshold ramp. And so if you had a shower that has just a tiny lip to get over and but for that lip, you could roll a shower chair in. Sometimes a small threshold ramp is just what is needed. And then we talked earlier about a detachable shower wand. These are usually pretty straightforward to add to a shower. It's usually a no tool solution to add and have that shower wand, the shower head be able to come down and be at a convenient height for the person using it. On the upper left here is a bedside commode. This one has got the feature of the armrest being able to move, but A commode could be used in a bathroom over a toilet to raise the toilet seat or provide some arm support, but it can also be used outside of the bathroom if getting in and out of the bathroom is difficult, for example, at night. This horseshoe looking thing is it is called a portable rinse basin. And this is something that could be used seated or it could even be used lying down. There's a variety of these out there on the market, and it allows a person to have their hair washed without having to either lean far back or get in or out of a tub. On the far right-hand side are two examples because sometimes a person needs to be on a floor of their home that is more accessible, except that there is no bathing on that floor if there's a half bath. And so these are a couple of examples of portable showers that can be used in a room that is not ever designed to be a shower. The one on the top is kind of a lighter weight, soft-sided option. And so the water, you attach the hose to the sink, and that brings the water to a shower wand. And not really seen in these pictures, but both of them have a pump that pumps the water that would gather at the bottom, pumps that back to the drain of the sink. There's some other items that I did not share pictures on here. There are special shampoo caps that it can just be placed over a person's head, and scrubbing can happen and rinsing, but no water is needed to wash your hair and head. There's also bath wipes that can be even warmed gently, and that with those things a person could take a bath and be clean with without having to leave their bed. On this next slide, I have a few things, word of caution items, for a variety of reasons. So on the top left, we talked about this a little bit earlier. This is an example of one of the toilet seat risers that only attaches to the toilet by clamping to the bowl. Those are not necessarily very stable. On the bottom left, there's that suction cup grab bar we talked about as well. We'll just go around counterclockwise here. Why do I have a lawn chair in here? Well, I certainly have seen people who have problem solved the difficulty of standing in a shower by adding a lawn chair. And while it's not terrible thinking, that it is not the most stable option, even though it can get wet. And then on the upper right, we see here a type of bathtub that is marketed a lot of places for being an accessible way to take a bath. The challenge for this, though, is that at some point, with progressive weakness, getting in and out of this type of a tub is every bit as difficult as getting in and out of a regular bathtub. And so it may be a way to take a bath for a period of time, but for most people, it is not a long-term solution that is going to be easy for them or their caregiver to access. So we've spent a fair amount of time in the bathroom. Let's move on. And I'm talking next about transfer solutions. And this one is less tied to a specific part of your home. You may have heard people talking about transfers, assisting with transfers. And by that, what do we mean? A transfer is any time you move from one surface to another surface. So if I moved from my bed to standing, if I moved from my bed to a chair, if I moved from one chair to another, on or off of a toilet, in or out of a tub, anytime I'm moving from one surface to another surface. And so I just wanted to talk about some solutions out there related. Here are some tools, some of which we've seen so far and some of which we have not. So let's touch on the ones we've already looked at. Here is a grab bar. Installing grab bars is a great solution lots of places, at doorways, by steps, getting in and out of tubs, getting in and out of showers, on and off the toilet. If you have a way to bolt something to a stud in the wall, great solution. And we talked about those tension mounted transfer poles for when something is needed that is sturdy but cannot be bolted to a wall. There are additional options out there not pictured. Another solution is to add what is called a bed cane to a bed. That works really well for at least a non-adjustable bed frame. Just adds a handle or a bar right at the edge of the bed to help with turning, to help with sitting up, to help with getting in and out of the bed. Up on the upper left, this is a picture of someone using a gait belt to assist another person with transfers. It just provides a very reliable, comfortable, and safe way to have a firm grasp on the person who is being assisted to stand or to move from one surface to another. And your PT or OT at the clinic or home health would be a great resource to know if this is a good solution for you and to help you to know how to use it safely. Bottom center is a little bit tricky to see. There is a device here. It is kind of shaped like an L, and it's called a car cane. It sits just in that little latch that is at the back of every car door. And just sits there very sturdily and gives you something to push up on when getting out of a vehicle. And then when you're done with it, it just lifts right out of that and goes wherever you would like it to go. Pop it in your purse, drop it on the seat for next time. So a car cane. And then on the right is an example of a lift recliner. A lift recliner is incredibly useful for a couple of things. One, if standing up from your seat has gotten difficult or unsafe, it does part of the work for you by bringing your seat up higher. But it can also be useful for someone that is not getting in and out of a chair on their own at all because with the remote control here, the user or a caregiver can adjust almost infinitely the position of the chair, and so it can be a really comfortable seat for longer parts of a day for someone that might have a little bit more difficulty relieving pressure for themselves. Now, here are a couple of examples of what are called mechanical lifts. These are items that can be useful when the person living with ALS is not able to either at all or consistently anyway move themselves from one surface to another, even with help from another person. These are kind of two examples of general categories of lifts. On the right-hand side is an example of a sit to stand lift. And as you can see, what it does is it supports the person in an upright position. They are bearing some weight on their legs and are kind of remaining in a semi-standing position. Once their backside is raised off the seat, then the device has got wheels and it can be moved with the person in it to the next surface where they can be assisted or lowered back into a sitting position. The one on the left is a patient lift, and many people refer to these as a Hoyer lift. Hoyer is a brand, kind of like Kleenex, but so if someone is talking about a Hoyer, they're talking about a patient lift. And these can be, can provide support for someone really along the continuum of ability, can support a person in a fairly upright sitting position shown, or can support a person in an almost lying down position. The person being transferred really does not need to be able to provide any support or any part, of participating in the transfer, and this can help to move them safely from one surface to another. Most of these Hoyer type lifts also the boom, the part that holds the sling at the top can be lowered enough that they can be used to help a person off the floor if they have had a fall and cannot rise on their own without help. Got a few more things to share here. Here are some examples of other things that are available depending on your home setup and your payer sources. On the left, this is a ceiling mounted track lift. You can see that there is a beam of sorts installed to the ceiling. There is a device right here that can be, move along the track, and it can raise and lower the boom of the lift. And so anywhere along that track, the person could be moved quite easily. In the center is an example of a freestanding or a gantry type lift. It really does the same sort of thing. It has a very similar ability to slide along a track. It has a very similar component that can raise or lower the boom. And then it supports a sling for the user. And so this, you only see a chair under this person, but something like this could potentially be set up, over a bed with room on the other side, for example, for a wheelchair. So you would have a lift in place for that. On the far right-hand side is an example of a stair glide or a stair lift, and this is essentially a seat that moves along a track up or down a flight of stairs. These can be incredibly useful for the right person, and can let a person have access to multiple levels of their home. You'll see I have my exclamation point, my yield sign again there. And the word of caution with this is that these are fantastic tools, but they do require the user to have a few things in place. And the user needs to be able to get on and off the seat pretty well on their own. And also for safety, the user needs to be able to sit well on their own. So it requires a certain amount of trunk or core strength, as well as neck and strength and head control. And so it is a type of thing that may be a long-term solution for someone that has very slow progression of symptoms, but it can also be a relatively short-term solution for someone that is having more rapid progression. And I always advise people that if they are using this type of a device, it is also wise to make a plan for how they will move about their home if at some point this is not a solution that will meet their needs. I'm going to talk a little bit more about things related to the bed. So here are examples of a couple of things. We've seen a few things before. There's that on the right-hand side is that tension-mounted transfer pole. I didn't have a picture earlier, but down on the bottom, we're going clockwise from the transfer pole. Here is an example of someone utilizing a bed cane, that device that can attach to your bed frame, and provide a little bit of assistance for, those transfers or for moving around in bed. For the right person that has strong arms, but maybe is having a tough time moving in bed, next over, we have got a independently standing trapeze that could be added to different types of beds, giving someone, something to hang on to directly above them to help with repositioning or moving in or out of bed. Again, right tool for the right person. You would need to have some good arm strength to use any of those three. Next, on the left-hand side is an example of an adjustable bed. Many people do find that lying flat when living with ALS can be difficult if their diaphragm has been impacted. And so having the ability to raise the head of the bed can be incredibly helpful. It can also be really useful to be able to raise and lower the head and the foot of the bed, just for comfort reasons. And it can be helpful for getting in and out of bed, to be able to lift the head of the bed up and be partway seated, by the time you need to move your body on your own. So an adjustable bed frame is one option, but then shown on the top in the center is also a hospital bed, and it has many of the similar features as an adjustable bed frame, but in addition, a hospital bed can be raised and lowered while the person in the bed is in the bed. And that is primarily of help to a caregiver to help with their ergonomics and prevent injury. Of note here also is that with a physician's prescription, a hospital bed is typically covered by Medicare. And before I move on to my next slide with all of these things, I just want to mention, as I will a couple of times, that you definitely will want advice from your medical team to best match your needs and abilities with solutions that are right for you. So I'm shifting gears here again. We've talked a lot about things that maybe get installed to your home that take some space, but let's talk about technology a little bit now. You might hear a couple of different terms used interchangeably. One of them is smart home, and the other is environmental controls. And so we'll talk about some common things that people find useful in the next couple of slides. I guess let's first have a little bit of a definition. So, a smart home devices, they are internet connected appliances, gadgets, and systems that can be controlled remotely, often through a smartphone or through voice commands. Why would you want to be able to control your environment with your voice or with your phone? Well, for safety, you might be able to avoid some unsafe transfers. You might have better lighting as you're moving through your home. It can allow you to manage the entry of your home without having to go to the door. And it can also, be useful for some hands-free, making hands-free phone calls or monitoring a person that you're providing care for. Also, comfort and independence. I definitely want to be able to control the lighting and the air movement and the sound around me. Recreation and participation. It can be an avenue for accessing music, television, books, shopping, etc. And so, what kinds of things would you need? For most of these, the easiest setups anyway start with having a home internet or Wi-Fi connection, as well as a smartphone or a tablet. And then those are often paired with things, smart speakers, so an Alexa or Google Home device, smart switches, which can be installed where your regular light switches are. Smart light bulbs, cameras, locks, doorbells, thermostats, even controllers for curtains and blinds. And we'll look at some of these just briefly in the next couple of slides. The purpose of this slide is kind of just demonstrating, here is an example of a deadbolt controller that could be accessed remotely, a smart doorbell with a camera embedded. These outlet plugs, an item is just plugged in through this outlet plug addition, and then you can control power to an item through that. Smart light bulbs, and then on the bottom right is an example of a device called a Fire Cube for the television that allows voice control of the TV. And on the left, here's an example of one of those smart speakers. That's an Alexa speaker of sorts. So one way to control these things is by asking Alexa to do the task. But if your voice is not your strength and you do have the ability to, use your hands to access your phone, there is generally a way to open up the app and turn items off and on through your phone or tablet as well. I just added a few pictures of some other items that can be found that are smart. Here's an example of a smart thermostat. That would require an electrician most likely to install, but once that's put together, again, you can control that from your phone. You could ask your smart speaker to change the temperature in the room. The center thing is a little curtain opening and closing robot of sorts. It just rolls along the curtain rod and to open or close the blind or the curtain. And then also difficult to see in this picture, but there are little items that can be added to blinds that can raise or lower blinds or that can spin to open or close the blinds, the horizontal blinds as well. And in this picture, I just wanted to make note that, sometimes for some things, neither using your voice to control an item nor using your phone or tablet to control an item is the right thing for you. And so here we've got, the television in the center and some examples of, communication devices and many communication devices, many Power wheelchairs both have the ability to mimic the signal that comes from a remote control, and so uh, you know there are different ways. I guess that's the point of this, is that there are different ways to control things through touch, through use of a communication device, through a speaker, and using your voice. There's also some standalone items. They're not really smart home or environmental control items, but man, super great tools for the right person. This on the left is a not great photo, but is an example of what is called on Amazon anyway, a caregiver pager. And there are just some, buttons that have a battery inside, and you can press the button, and the bigger piece, which could be plugged into a wall, or some of them are also battery powered. At the other end, it's going to make a noise. It's a lot like a wireless doorbell, but intended instead for a person to be able to use. And there's options that have a lanyard that you could wear it around your neck, or you could wear the button on your wrist like a watch. Or the little buttons could be, Velcroed, or, use adhesive to put them in strategic places in your house, like next to your recliner or next to the toilet. And then you press the button, and there is a good loud noise that your caregiver will hear. In the center, this is just another similar example. This one actually is a wireless doorbell and not designed as a caregiver pager, but it functions very much the same. You can see that there's a piece that plugs into the wall, and another piece that could be, Velcroed or glued or taped to wherever you would want it to be. And again, just pressing that wireless button is going to make a great big noise coming out of the receiver. Um, this on the right is a voice amplifier. It's just a little fancy microphone and a speaker, but there are different styles. And again, you would want your speech therapist or your clinic team to make recommendations. But sometimes just this kind of a tool to make your voice louder is incredibly useful. And I'm running short of time, so I'm gonna go just a little bit faster. This is just a quote from someone that really did embrace adding some smart technology to their home, and they listed all of the things that they have done with their smart home, including adding, routines that their smart home would automatically do things in the morning or in the evening. So, and they were even having a communication device set up to very simply command some things in their home. Very briefly at the end here, I want to talk a little bit about how you can, get a little bit more customized recommendations. We'll talk over a couple of slides here, but I want to talk just briefly here about a program that the ALS Association has. It is called the Virtual Home Safety and Modification Assessment Program. Sometimes we have the safety and the modification flipped around in our acronym. It is a no-cost virtual visit to your home, using Zoom or FaceTime, with a qualified provider who is an OT, a PT, or an ATP that has this experience with ALS, has knowledge of equipment, and has knowledge about home modifications. And with this visit, the focus is really on the safety and accessibility of your home. It helps you identify options that would work well in your space and could solve problems both currently and in the future, that, for problems you're not yet experiencing. And it helps you to make just informed decisions. So things that always are looked at are getting in and out of your home, accessing the bathroom, transfer needs, but also can look at, mobility between different rooms, the bedroom setup, talk about smart home technologies, and even talk about, having some things in place in case of emergencies. And so briefly, I just left this slide in here from a previous presentation. Emergencies like what? If you are dependent on electricity for some breathing support, you might want to have power backup. Talking to your, electric and or utility companies about them knowing that you might have some special needs, things like that. But also, you've got a whole team. You've got a whole team to give you information. So we just talked about that virtual visit that will give you a comprehensive review of your home environment with some personalized recommendations. Your clinic team is super important because your clinic team is who knows how your body is working and can help identify, what kinds of things you need. They can help make arrangements for training you to use those items, and they can also help with ordering items that would be covered by your insurance. And then there's your ALS Association Care Services team member. They can help, uh, you know, coordinate with your care services team on topics that come up but might not be answered during that virtual home visit, things like advanced care planning, additional local resources, etc. All right, you guys, I tried to save a few minutes for questions. That was a lot of information fast, but Ryan, do you have any questions for me?
Yes, thank you for that wonderful presentation and all those great practical tips. Yes, we're going to open for a brief question and answer right now. We have a few questions, but if somebody does have a question that they haven't had a chance to ask, please feel free to submit it in the chat or the Q&A feature now. So just to start, can you just touch on with the virtual home safety assessments? Can you just walk through what that looks like, what that all entails?
Yeah, yeah. So if you are interested in one of these, you would first of all you could talk to your care services coordinator or care services team member. If you're interested in accessing one of these, they would submit a request, and then somebody from the evaluator team, the assessor team, would reach out to you and set up a time on that works for you to meet virtually, a lot like we are meeting right now. We're meeting on Zoom right now. It looks a lot the same. Then in that meeting, they would meet with you and or another person in your life if you need someone that is a little bit mobile. And with a tape measure, they would look at these different parts of your home beside you and take a ton of notes and then would talk through with you, here's something that would be useful potentially in your bathroom. Here's the type of seat that would work in your shower. You certainly, you definitely still want input from your team for what will work with your body, but this assessment will help you know what will work with your home. So that visit takes place, everything gets looked at, and questions get answered, and then afterwards, you get a nice follow-up email that has, all of those details for you, so you don't have to make notes, and you can refer back to that and share it with your clinic team as well.
Great. And going off of that question, is that a service that's available regardless of where you're located in the United States?
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent. Um, so a question that came across, what is the best way to go about finding some of the equipment that you reviewed in the webinar? Are there any links that they can be referred to for some of the miscellaneous products you provided?
I could potentially provide some links, but my real suggestion would be, if you made some little notes, if you had questions, reach out to your care services team member, but also reach out to your clinic team. Your clinic team should know, what kinds of things you could get through insurance, where to go to find those other things, and if they don't have answers, you're both the ALS Association's care services team member and your clinic can work together to help you solve those problems.
Wonderful, wonderful. D- so a person asked, do you have a list of preferred or experienced companies for each state and city that are specialized in remodeling for a disability? And if not a specific list, any tips for ways people can go about finding a company that maybe specializes with these disability remodels?
Gotcha. So I'm going to sound like a broken record. Your care services coordinator is usually a local person, and so they may have some information about at least, businesses that other people living with ALS have used and provided some positive feedback, about. So that would be a great place to start. The other thing that you can do is to get on the Google, look for accessible remodelers, accessibility, a handy person. But do bear in mind too that ADA is a series of laws passed that provide all kinds of guidance for, like where would you put a grab bar and how big should a bathroom, how should, space, how much space do you need on each side of a toilet, those kinds of things. ADA is valuable, but someone that was going to come in and make your home ADA compliant may not make your home a home that's going to work for you because you are unique, and that is kind of a general, broad list of things. So, um, yeah.
Great advice. One last question here as of now. When it comes to using previously used equipment, any recommendations as far as safety is concerned or resources for that?
Yeah, there's a lot of resources for previously used equipment. Ideally, you would want at some point for a professional to have looked at it between the previous user and yourself. Um, the ALS Association does have a program that does provide some limited used equipment to people that need it, that don't have insurance coverage for those things, and those generally are inspected in between users. But also, check your other, locally, there's often resources for some equipment, whether that is your local, VFW or Lions Club or Elks Club. And there are often other, vendors that might refurbish equipment and sell at a discount, or other loan closets that can provide those things. But ideally, you would want someone, a professional, to have looked at the things in between, do some sanitizing in between users as well.
Okay. And the last question, you're a physical therapist yourself, and you might have mentioned this, so forgive me, but when it comes to physical therapy, occupational therapists, are those the professions you would recommend maybe at clinic to discuss some of these modifications or adaptive equipment with when you are at clinic?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I don't think that I really made clear here, they can make the recommendations for the things that are going to work with your body and what's going on with your body right now. They may or may not, depending, have a lot of insight about your home setup. So, there's some things you can do for yourself to help them help you. And that might be, if you want to talk to somebody about a challenge in your bathroom, maybe take a few pictures of your bathroom and have it handy when you go to clinic. Or consider accessing our virtual home safety assessment program, where you would get someone looking at your home in some detail, and then you can have that report to share, and that helps us. We are delighted to collaborate with your clinic team on these things.
Great, great. Well, that looks like all of the questions we have right now. So once again, I want to thank our wonderful speaker, Michelle Frederick, for the amazing presentation. A couple of quick reminders. You can view a recording of this webinar on our Care Services webinar webpage. It should be uploaded within about a week, and a copy of the slides will be included along with that. You can also use this webpage to view all of the past webinars we have hosted, as well as sign up for future webinars that we are hosting. Lastly, a final reminder that you'll receive a short survey when we end this webinar. And just thank you for everyone in attendance today. Thank you again to Michelle, and we hope everyone has a good rest of their day.
Thank you all for coming.